It's election time, so I have to deal with what I think is the most boring subject of all. That's this voter suppression thing. Man, I don't get it. One thing I know though, if you're a citizen and you don't have an ID, oh man, you're a Democrat without question. And by the way, I actually know people who don't have IDs. I rent to some poor people, and some of them have not had IDs, so they couldn't pay me with a check, for instance. We had to make other arrangements. I've asked some, why don't you have an ID? And they don't want to be on the government's radar as their response, which is fine. Well, guess what? I think that that's your beef, okay, but guess what? You lose your right to vote. Seems simple enough to me. But then you have the whole election day, which is pretty good to me. The process, I think, is fair and open and fine. You have a day, it's announced way in advance. Everything is on one ballot. I mean, all the people running, all the initiatives, makes it very convenient. Just like a business, there's an opening time and a closing time. Oh, baby, but that's voter suppression. I mean, to Democrats, if somebody can't vote at 1 a.m. on Sunday, well, system's rigged against them. Don't quite understand that. And now the Republicans, at least they say Republicans, are trying to purge the rolls. Meaning this, like, I live in Chicago, okay, for 30 years. And we just laugh it off when, there's an election and dead people vote or somebody votes 3 or 4 times. It's no big deal. Now, in Chicago, it's not a problem because Democrats win every election by a landslide. But in the rest of the country, that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes Republicans and Democrats, it's a much closer race, and I understand the need to sort of keep the process pure. I wonder sometimes, too, if you just let Democrats go, just take the chains off, let them do elections any way they want to, how would that work? I really believe some Democrats would be setting up voting booths in Mexico City. Seriously. They say, well, hey, they're coming here someday anyway. They'd be making sure that voting booths were like 2 feet high so kids in daycare centers could reach them honestly and fairly. And you say, well, wait a minute, they can't even read. Pfft, no problem, because there's only 2 levers, a Democrat, Republican. Just put a candy cane by the Democrat, all problems solved. I don't get it. To the Democrats, I want to say this. If you're really concerned about those disenfranchised voters, there can't be that many that don't have an ID. So how about this? Instead of handcuffing the rest of us and damaging the process, why don't you spend your time and money finding those people, helping them get an ID, you buy them lunch and take them to the polls. That's fine with me. But the system, I don't think it's rigged. I think it's very fair. Go vote, my friends.